Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back with my belated and bumper, as you can see, August book haul. So the books that were sent by publishers and the books that I bought myself in August. Now actually there were more than this because I've done an autumn TBR, which is all books that I bought while I was in Bath and Bristol to read over the autumn. A lot more of these I bought when I was in Bath and Bristol, it has to be said, because for over 2 weeks I was travelling without having brought any books from home. I literally bought as I went and read what I bought. So I've read a few of these, which is good. It doesn't happen very often. But yeah, I also just went a little bit wild as I was shopping too. Oops, but hey ho, it was supporting independent bookshops and that is brilliant. So there's that. Speaking of hauls and a little bit of admin before we move on to what the books actually are, I'm changing the way that I'm doing hauls on the channel and I'm only showing you books from publishers that I really want to read. I get sent a lot of unsolicited books that I might read maybe, but I'm not like desperate to read, whereas these ones are all ones that I'm really excited for. Also, just to say that I haven't done a wrap up for ages and I will be doing 2 sort of summer wrap-ups probably in October, so they're coming. And then last on the admin side of things, I've started a book club over on my Patreon and we're going to be reading Vera by Elizabeth von Arnim at the beginning of November, but we're already having chats and like sort of picking what genres we might want to read and how the book group's going to work, and it'll be a live Zoom with me for like an hour or so. And yeah, if you'd like to join, you'd be more than welcome. Now that I've done those 3 points of admin, changed to hauls, wrap-ups are coming in like 2 bulk ones from the summer and book club. Very excited about this actually. Perfect autumnal book too. I will have a chat with you about books that have been sent by publishers first. So I have 3 books that I have been sent by publishers before, but these are the finished editions. The first one is Lessons by Ian McEwan. I have not read an Ian McEwan for a long time. I used to really love his books. And watching Sky Arts Book Club the other day, which sounds really vain considering I'm one of the presenters on it, but I was reminded that I loved On Chesil Beach because Leonie Ross picked it, and I loved Atonement, which Sarah Vaughan picked for part of the show where we talked about endings of books, and I thought maybe it's time, so maybe Lessons is the one to go back into. I have a proof of it so I can back that one around, but yeah, if you've read it and you think I'd like it, let me know, because I feel like me and Ian McEwan sort of parted ways around the time of Saturday and we haven't quite got back together since, and I used to really love his books. Then we have Less is Lost by Andrew Shaw Greer, and I really need to read Less. I'm very tempted to do that very soon because then I would like to go maybe read them back to back. Would that be an idea, do you think, or should I have a break in between them? Let me know that in the comments down below. And then one big chunkster that I'm looking forward to getting to probably over the Halloween period, which I'm so ready for, is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriques, which is translated by, I think they should have put it on the cover, Megan McDowell from Spanish. I think Megan McDowell translates all of her books. They put it right at the back of the bottom. Guys, please put it on the front. I'm looking forward to reading this though in due course. I think it's going to be a big spooky romp. And I haven't got lost in a really I haven't got lost in a really big book for a while. So there's that. Right, now on to 3 books that were sent to me from the lovely folk at Dead Ink, and they are Naomi Boo's 4 books, of hers. We have The Lost Art of Sinking, which is a dark, twisty novella, I believe. Then we have Animals at Night, which I think is a short story collection that's quite sinister. Exit Management, I think is about back in March, I read Exit by Belinda Bauer, where it's about people who help people. It's assisted suicide, basically, because they want to die and they can't do that final thing themselves. And I think this looks at that in a quite a different way. And then we have Sealed, which is all about a pandemic, basically, where you get this illness that seals all of the holes in your body. And like, imagine that. So these sound perfect for the autumn period, and a bit spooky and a bit dark and a bit twisty, so I'm looking forward to those. Then we have got to try and make a pile that doesn't fall over, 2 books, and I'm so gutted about what happened here. These books are the first 2 in the Ghost Hunter Chronicles by Yvette Fielding. We have The House in the Woods and The Ripper of Whitechapel, and I was meant to be doing a seance with Yvette Fielding, who I've loved for years. She was one of my Blue Peter presenters when I was little, but also does Most Haunted. And Most Haunted is one of my favourite ever TV shows. And I was meant to be doing a seance with her in her house for an online event. And I got COVID and I couldn't do it. And I've been utterly like devastated, like genuinely really upset about it. In fact, it's making me feel upset now because it would have just been amazing. Hopefully, maybe we'll be able to see something in the future. Then the folk at Faber sent me Foster by Claire Keegan. I'm about to do a vlog of reading the Booker shortlist. I've already read small things like these. I didn't really like it, but I'm going to read this almost like at the end of the final 6. Because I feel like I need to for some reason. I don't know why, me being me. I don't know anything about it. It's another short book. We'll see. We'll see how I get on. Small things like these left me very cold. I think it's because I felt like the dedication spoiled it, but also it lacked something. I don't know what it was for me, but it lacked something. Anyway, we'll see what happens with Foster. Then we have A Girlhood, A Letter to My Transgender Daughter by Carolyn Hayes. This is coming out in January next year. I think quite a lot of 2023 books actually at the moment, which is exciting. I feel like I need to start cracking on with them. But yeah, non-fiction, literally a letter from a mother to her transgender daughter. And I think that's going to be really, really, really powerful. So looking forward to that. I have not read Nell Zink. This is Avalon, which is also out in January next year. I don't know anything about it. I really love that cover, although it does also remind me of Sheila Hetty's latest book, which I can't remember what it's called. Pure Colour is over on my shelves over there. And I would like to read Nell Zink, and I think, like I said, I might start getting to 2023 books soonish. When's too early for people to start talking about books for 2023, do you think? Let me know that in the comments down below, please. There's going to be a lot of things I ask you, so I hope you're keeping notes. Rose and the Burma Sky by Rosanna Amaka. This is out in February next year, and it says, this is the story of a girl named Rose and the soldier Obi who loved her, and it is set in Nigeria, and it's 1939. It's the brink of war, and she falls in love with Obi. I think he then dies and she meets someone else, but then he might come back, maybe. Really like that cover. It's very autumnal, actually. I really like books set in Nigeria and by Nigerian authors. I don't know what it is particularly about that I just like. It's a bit like the fact that I love Australian writing particularly, but yeah, anyway, there we go. So I'm looking forward to this one. Then I know Harry a bit, and this is a book that's coming out next summer, that they've sent me a very, very early copy of. It's A Trans Man Walks into a Gay Bar, and I'm really intrigued with this. It's a journey to self and sexual discovery, and yeah, I think Harry is ace. I love him on Instagram and everything, so yeah, I'm really, really intrigued with this one. I hadn't heard of the next book, which is out, I think quite soon, maybe the end of this month, beginning of next. It's Fever by Jonathan Bazzi. Oh, and it's translated from Italian by Alice Whitmore. It's out from the Lovely Folk at Scribe, and it says, Jonathan is 31 years old, living in Milan with his boyfriend of 3 years and their 2 Devon Rex cats, when, on a day like any other, he gets a fever. But unlike most, this fever doesn't go away. It's constant, low level and exhausting. After spending weeks Googling his symptoms and documenting his illness, he finally sees a doctor. A series of blood tests, anxious visits to hospital, and repeated misdiagnoses ensue until the truth is finally revealed. Jonathan is HIV positive. And I think it looks at the discrimination that is still going on for people with HIV or AIDS, and it's something that I don't think is being talked about so much, but I think also may use the pandemic, or what we've experienced through the pandemic, as a way of looking at illness in a different way in the subject matter. So I'm really, really, really intrigued with this. I also think that's a corking cover. So we have that one. Then the lovely folk at Europa Editions. I did ask for this one, actually, it has to be said, and I did say I would like their Naomi Booth books, so yeah, those I've technically asked for, but this as from Europa. This is Belle Green by Alexandra Lapierre, which is translated from the French, I think, by Tina Cover, and this is about a young woman, and it's based on the true story of a woman called, I want to say Alice, but I don't think that's right. No, it wouldn't be, would it? Because it's Belle Green, it's on the cover. Come on, Savage, who ended up being the director of the JP Morgan Library, and also was a woman who was black but could pass as white, and looks at her life story, which I think is going to be incredible. credible. Bit of a chunkster. One of the books I want to head to this autumn. Haven't been doing very well with the biggest books on my shelves, so I'm rethinking how I do that, and I've put them on a separate shelf because I'm running out of space on here. I'm going to be doing a sorting the shelves video very soon, and that's going to be a blinking nightmare. Anyway, Europa also very kindly sent me Didn't Nobody Give a Shit What Happened to Carlotta by James Hannaham. I've meant to read his book Delicious Foods for ages, which is partly, I believe, narrated by Cocaine. This is all about a transgender woman's re-entry into life outside after 20 years of being in prison. And I've just heard phenomenal things about this and James Hannaham's books anyway. So yeah, very, very keen to get to this one soon. As I am, again, an unsolicited book that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up myself, but I'm really intrigued by it. And that is I Will Die in a Foreign Land by Kalani Pickhart. And this is set, I'm just checking it's translated because I thought maybe it was, but no. It's set in 1913 when a Russian ballet incited a riot in Paris at the Theatre des Champs-Élysées. Only a Russian could do that, said Alexandra Ivanovich. Only a Russian could make the whole world go mad. And then a century later, in November 2013, thousands of Ukrainian citizens gathered at Independence Square in Kiev to protest then President Yanukovych's failure to sign a referendum with the European Union. So yeah, it's kind of based around two different points in history, and with everything still going on sadly with Ukraine and Russia, even though I feel like it's not in the news as much anymore. I mean, obviously there's been something else that's been going on which has taken over the world, but let's move on from that. Yeah, this the cover's quite sad though. Makes me feel sad, that poor lamb. So yeah, we have that. And penultimately from, oh no, actually, it's not penultimately because I bought myself the next one, so I don't know, I put it in the wrong pile. But yeah, last but not least from publishers is The Garnet Girls by Georgina Moore. And Georgina Moore has been and I think still is, a publicist for authors such as Maggie O'Farrell, which was the book that for some reason I was going to show you next, even though I bought that for me. She's now turned author. I don't know what this is about. I'm really intrigued. I want to go in, I like to go into books quite blind anyway, but extra so when I sort of know the person, which I did, well, sort of know. I do know Georgina. I'm really intrigued for it, and I wanted to show you it came with a parcel of delights. So look here, sometimes these arrive and they're quite exciting. You've got gin and tonic, you've got bath bombs, you've got candles. What more could you need in life? So I shall use those. I'm saving them for when I read that book. Right, now on to books. Oh no, before I go on to books that I bought myself, I have some gifts. First of all, I wanted to show you these brilliant bookmarks that the lovely Catherine of Books on the Hill sent me, which are just super duper sweet. I love me some Kylie Minogue, so to have her on a bookmark, what more could I need in life? And my lovely friend Maddie bought me, when we were in Bristol and we were book shopping together, she got me Anna Funder's Stasiland. It's one of her favourite books of all time. I was saying how I don't read enough non-fiction. I've been dreadful at reading non-fiction this year. I have big plans for non-fiction November. And this is Stories from Behind the Berlin Wall. I wouldn't have chosen this myself, partly because I feel like we studied the situation in Germany through World War I, World War II, and to the Berlin Wall coming down so much at school. Like, it really, really put me off. Like, it put me off the certain books that I read for school. But yeah, the fact that she loved it so much and she bought me it was like a really magical thing. So I'm going to head to this in due course, and hopefully we were going to film a video about it, but then I've not been able to go to the last couple of Story Trails tours because I had COVID, which stopped me from sitting it out. Let's bring it all back. Moving on. Obviously we haven't been able to. So anyway, right, on to books that I bought myself. Now I'm going to try and remember which bookshops I bought these in, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I got these first ones in, so Bonsai by Alejandro Zambra, which I've been recommended a lot. Very short, sharp tale about two friends, and it's translated, I should say, sorry, by Megan McDowell. I love the title, for one thing. We've got a lovely bonsai tree downstairs, and I'm really, really intrigued for it. I picked this one up, I believe, in Toppings, I think, in Bath. So we've got that. I know that I picked this up in Gloucester Road Books in Bristol, and then read it. It's The Quarry by Damon Galgut, which is sort of about a man who we first meet when he is he's on the run from something, we don't know what. He's sort of hiding on the edges of roads until he befriends a minister who then sort of takes him, gets him food and washed and everything, and then something happens that's horrifically, like, well, traumatic, and we follow on from there. And I thought this was brilliant. I am slowly but surely falling in love with Damon Galgut's writing after reading The Promise and then that. I already had this book, and it's a Tessa Moshfegh's Death in Her Hands. However, when I was in Bath, as you'll see when this vlog comes out in October of me buying and reading what I buy as I go for a couple of weeks, I didn't expect to pick up this book, but Tessa was in conversation while I was in Bath, so I went to go and see her. So I got this, and I also got Lapierre, which was in my August TBR, autumn TBR. I think I want to read this over the autumn as well, because I feel like it's a book that's a bit foresty, and it's a bit spooky and a bit mystery and quirky, and that feels kind of right for this time of year. We shall see. I picked up in Gloucester Road Books as well, Father, Maybe an Elephant, and Mother, Only a Small Basket, but by Gogu Shamala, and this is translated from Telugu, which is a language I've not heard about, and then I found out more about it, and it's fascinating. Go and Google it. I'm not going to tell you about it, go and Google it. But this is actually translated by several different people. So yeah, really intrigued for this short story collection from Tilted Access Press. I believe I bought this in, Stanford's in Bristol. It's Mothlight by Adam Scoville, and I was sent his book Nettles earlier this year, and I spotted this and I was like, oh, I went to look at Nettles first to remind myself about it, and then I saw this one, and this just sounded so brilliant. It says, Phyllis Ewens, a prominent researcher in Lepidopteria, which I think is butterflies, and moss, and a keen walker, has died of old age. Thomas, a much younger fellow researcher of moss, first met Phyllis when he was a child. He became her carer and companion, having rekindled her acquaintance later in life. Increasingly possessed by thoughts that he somehow actually is Phyllis Ewens, and unable to rid himself of the feeling that she's haunting him, Thomas must discover her secrets through her many possessions and photographs before he's lost permanently to a labyrinth of memories. And it just sounds so fascinating. And in it, you've got little bits of like her memories and stuff, or artifacts from her house, like a postcard. Like, honestly, how cool does that look? That just looks brilliant. So I got it. I picked this up in Mr. Toppings and promptly didn't read it. It's actually, that's not true. I started it and I wasn't in the right mood for it, but it's 2 years, 8 months and 28 Nights by Salman Rushdie. I would like to read more Rushdie, especially since what happened. And yeah, I wanted to support in some very small way, so I did. Now, I've been really good with independent bookshops, except for when I picked this one up. I'm doing them in the weirdest order because I bought them in all sorts of different places, but this was a random purchase in a supermarket, which I know is not a good thing for books, but I'm just being honest that I picked it up on a whim. It's Reprieve by James Han Matson. It's meant to be a kind of creepy horror set around a escape room, and I've seen a few people read this and really like it, so I thought, right, I'm going to give that one a try. So yeah, we have that one. That was a weak-willed moment. What wasn't though was when I picked up in Mr. B's, Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. They had to do a right old hunt for this one. It's a mixture of fairy tale and fable and myth riffing off, and this is a slight spoiler for when I do my summer wrap-ups, based around a Bible story, which is where it kind of lost me. I'd seen this on Cody's channel. Cody is back. I will link her channel down below, and just loved the cover. I think I'm holding the covers quite a long way from you now, aren't I? And I normally hold them much closer. I'm really sorry. Read it, short, sharp. Mr. B's were brilliant because they went on an absolute hunt to find it. And yeah, there we go. Read it. Then this I'm blaming on Mercedes because it's one of her favourite books of the year. It's Ohio, a novel. She's done a whole video on it. I didn't watch the whole video because I didn't want to know too much. I watched enough to know that it was one of her favourite books, and me and Mercedes have some very similar tastes sometimes, and I'm hoping this is going to be one of those times. So yeah, I had this one imported. And then we have a book that I picked up in I think I picked this up in, Bookhouse. In fact, I know I did because they didn't have it on the shelves, and then I went and asked, would they have it anytime soon? And it had literally just come in and was on a trolley, and he gave me straight away, and I was like, wow, that's what you need from a bookshop. And it's Emmy Yagi's Diary of a Void. I've read this. This is about a woman who is sick of her job and sick of the way she's treated, and she's asked to make the coffee, and she says, I can't because I'm pregnant, even though she's not. And we follow her on as she has to keep up this pretense and lie to other people, and indeed to herself. So yeah, there will have been a review of this on my Instagram already. So yeah, if you want to see some of my book thoughts before necessarily they're in a wrap up, then I was going to say, well, I'm sporadic at doing it. I want to make sure in 2023 I document every book that I read on Instagram, unless I end up judging another book prize where you can't talk about it, but we'll see. Anyway, this I thought was ace, and I think it has some of the best French flaps ever. And the reason it's all the different vegetables and fruit is because when you're in a lot of books around pregnancy, when the baby is growing, they compare it to different types of fruit and veg. So there we have that. Speaking of food, I picked up Takeaway by Angela Hui, Stories from a Childhood Behind the Counter. This is all about her memories of her parents and their takeaway shop that they had in Wales. It also looks at the racism that they went through at the time, but also what's happened with the pandemic and the awful, disgusting racial abuse that some Asians have gone through because of it. But also it's heartwarming and celebratory of food and takeaways and fast food. And yeah, so I started reading it, I was really loving it, but then I thought, no, this is definitely a non-fiction November book, so I'll read it then. And I picked this up in Bert's Books in Swindon. Whew, I can't remember where I got this one. So I think it might have actually been in a Waterstones, but it's Sean Hewitt's All Down Darkness Wide. I love Sean Hewitt's poetry. I like Sean Hewitt a lot. I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He gave me a tour of the library at Trinity College in Dublin, which was very kind of him. And yeah, this is, I think, about him and his partner who has depression, possibly. So it's a love story as well. I'm really, really excited for it. I've heard amazing things, and I wouldn't expect any less than brilliant from that. And actually, speaking of poetry, I saw these and picked these up in Toppings in Bath, which has moved into the most amazing venue. I thought it had actually gone at first, and then, oh wow, I was heartbroken. And if you're thinking you've not mentioned Persephone books and you were in Bath, Simon, head back to my autumn TBR, because Persephone books get mentioned there. I've just spotted that this book is just pescily there. I had to have a table here, that's why maybe I'm so much further away, because there's just so many books. Anyway, two different short poetry collections, two different poetry collections. We have Sick Fan Glass Dew by Sean Wei Kyung. I just love the cover. I've got no other reason for picking this up other than that. I didn't try a poem, nothing. I just thought I'm going to like that because of that. And then the other one was Rock Song by Golnoosh Noor, who I believe I have a short story collection of somewhere. I can't see it now, it's going to annoy me, but I know it's somewhere here. And I would like to read that at some point too. I just, again, loved that cover. They're both from Verve Poetry, and I thought I would give them a whirl. So I will do, and I'll report back. Then I'm going to clump these books together because I'll be doing a video on them specially, and that is the 6 books that have been shortlisted for the Readings Prize in Australia. The Readings Prize is set up by the independent book chain Readings, and they choose a first or second novel by an Australian author that they think is fabulous and create a shortlist from them, and there we go. So I'll be reading those in due course. I'll show you them very quickly. We have Love and Virtue by Diana Reid, which I believe is about friends at college. We have Jessica Al's Cold Enough for Snow. I love this cover more than I do the Fitzcarraldo edition one. This is about a mother and daughter who go on a holiday to Japan together. Loads of people have loved that one. We have Sunbaking by Isabel Beach. It's about a woman who has been widowed. She goes and stays with her friends who are going to get married in Italy, and kind of gets involved, but also there's flashbacks to a conversation between her and her father that suggests things have not been right for her for a while. Hovering even, by Rhett Davis. Hovering. This sounds like it's going to be very up my street. I mean, they all do actually to a certain degree, but this one has got something about it. It's about a woman called Alice who has basically eradicated herself from people's lives for a long time, including her sister Lydia. She's waiting outside Lydia's door, and we see what happens from there. And Lydia, I think, is dealing with things with her son. And we have a grandmother and grandson whose relationship is put to the test when he ends up in prison. I think he might be queer. She's of Lebanese descent, and so it looks at the culture of those people who came to Australia and settled there in that way. And I think it looks at how this young queer boy is just lost in the world. So that sounds interesting too. As does Loveland by Robert Lukins, which is, sorry, did I say what that one was? This is Losing Face by George Haddad. Sorry, I should have said that. And then we have Robert Lukins' Loveland, which is set in a burnt down theme park where only one building is left. A young woman has inherited it from her grandfather. She goes in there and starts to find out her family secrets. So they sound amazing. When I was ordering those, I couldn't not order, well I could have not, but I decided to. Son of Sin by Omar Saka, and this is another queer story. An estranged father, an abused and abusive mother, an army of relatives, a tapestry of violence stretching between Turkey, Lebanon and Western Sydney. So yeah, I think this is going to probably talk to Losing Face actually quite a bit. So I'm intrigued to get to these. And then, as you'll have seen, Maggie O'Farrell, The Marriage Portrait. I've read this already. I've not talked about it because I read it for something that's happening later in the year, so you'll have to wait for my thoughts. I wanted a finished copy because it's blinking gorgeous, so I got it, and I love everything Maggie O'Farrell has written that I've read so far. I haven't gone through all of her back catalogue, and at some point I would like to. And then last but not least, 2 crime books. The Last Party by Claire Mackintosh, which I admit I bought in a supermarket, naughty me. I've read 2 or 3 of Claire Mackintosh's thrillers and really enjoyed them. This is her latest. Actually, it's one that me and Pip could do for a crime time. And speaking of crime time, while the pile's getting really high, me and Pip will be back with crime time, and the first book that we're going to be doing is Ruth Ware's The It Girl, which has a quote from Claire Mackintosh, which means I could technically do Telephone Blur, which the wonderful Julie over at Linen Library, which I'll link her channel down below, has started, where you read one book and then head to another book by somebody on the blurb. So in this case, you go to Claire Mackintosh even, Shari Lapina, whose crime novels I also like, Marianne Keyes, who I adore, Lisa Jewell, who I haven't read for years, Jane Casey and Janice Hallett. So there we go. Those are the books that I got in August, well, apart from the ones that were from charity shops, which, as I've mentioned, I'll link down below, and the ones that I bought for the autumn specifically, which I'll link down below. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry it's been a while since I've done one, but it does now mean that with these books and with July's books, I can actually properly sort out the shelves, which I think is going to lead to an epic cull. I haven't decided if I'm going to do an unhauling video because I don't know how I feel about them. And if I do, maybe it's something that I'll do for Patreon, we'll see. Anyway, and speaking of Patreon, a reminder, book club, if you want to join, that would be lovely. We're reading Vera by Elizabeth von Arnim. It's right under this pile of books here and I don't want to move them all. So I'm going to go now, but I will speak to you all very, very soon. Bye.